welcome to the Lawyer Henderson podcast show. Haven't been on for a while. uh, been on for a week. Been taking a little vacation there, but of course, we're back. Well, I'm back, I should say. And today we're going to be talking about China McClain. She said that she's leaving Hollywood after a wrap of the show that she had did on the WB. Also, how Hollywood destroyed child actors, Corey Feldman, and pedophilia in the industry of Hollywood, and what all of this is all about. And racist Tesla car company now is not only on the regular stock market, but it is now on the Standard & Poor 500. Okay, we're going to be also talking about how white people cheat in the U.S. stock market and manipulate prices and investments for themselves, leaving us, of course, to work at these regular jobs. If you're just joining us, go ahead and hit that like button. If you're on YouTube, go ahead and subscribe. Go ahead and basically hit that bell so you can receive your notifications when we come on. So, how did Tesla able to get on the Standard & Poor? And we're going to be talking about how white people cheat in the stock market. We have to be able to understand all of that as Black folks to understand why we basically are still sitting at $1.3 trillion, and white people are at 100,000 or 1,000. Well, they're at 100 trillion. So we're going to be talking about that on the Lawyer Henderson Show. Ladies and gentlemen, please like and subscribe if you have not already done so. We're starting now. Sorry, y'all. 516-418-5867, 516-418-5867. The number to call in if you want to call in. 516-418-5867. All right, so the Lawyer Henderson Show is on. Sorry, I've been out for a week and been taking care of things. But we're back, and I'm back, like I said. And for those of y'all who's on Instagram, go ahead and like the video as well on Instagram. YouTube, go ahead and hit that thumbs up button. Today we're going to be talking about how Tesla has cheated and is trying to cheat among other people and the other companies. Of course, these white folks, where they have these Fortune 500 companies, they stay ahead of the game by cheating specifically in the stock market and also in other investment avenues. And we're going to be talking about that today. We have to start talking about money and investment as far as Black folk and how we have been manipulated only to just think that jobs and cash money is wealth, and it's not. You see, we have to understand what the problem is as far as what wealth is really is about and how to accumulate it, and why we basically have not been able to close the wealth gap in this country. Okay, and so we're going to be talking and using the claim that now Tesla, the car company, is now on the Standard and Poor 500. We're going to be talking about the stock market here a little bit, and also mutual funds and other types of investments. And I'm pretty sure you went to YouTube and you might see has somebody showing you how to do a mutual fund or a what is called an ETA or something like that. We might not get into ETAs and all that, but what we will do is talk about how these white folks be cheating to maintain their investments in the stock market, and how the government allowed them to do it, and how this is really one of the biggest ways as to how white folks stay ahead of the game here, specifically in the United States and Western Europe. Okay. And this is not only happening here. China, they also do the same thing there. They manipulate the currency as well. As people in Africa, they also manipulate the currency. So it's not really just in the United States. Okay. So that is just not really there. But before we get into that topic, I want to talk about China Ann McClain. Now, she basically, as you know, she's been in Hollywood for a very long time. And I first heard about her when watching Tyler Perry's Daddy Little Girl. But she decided that she was wanting to leave the industry. And let's just talk a little bit about how Hollywood sometimes can destroy child actors. Okay. Everybody remember when Corey Feldman and Corey Helm basically in their teen years, they were talking about being molested by a lot of producers and actors and casting, what they call it the casting chair. You have a lot of these casting directors sleeping with these young boys, these young girls, and they basically, it was very much heavy, this pedophilia stuff in the 80s and 90s. And it was just covered up by the so-called mainstream media that's supposed to give us real truth about what's going in the Hollywood business. Now, I'm not saying that that's the reason why China Ann McClain is leaving. What I'm saying is that child actors have a lot of issues that they deal with in the industry. And so we're going to be talking also about that today. We'll start on that right now. But I don't know what happened here with China Ann McClain, because she did a video not too long ago, holding back tears after the Black Lighting movie exit. And I want to read what Rachel Yang, okay, hit that thumbs up button, like and subscribe. But remember, everything that we use for fair use regarding any media that we basically look on, we try to review it and basically give our own opinion. Hold on, let me plug in my laptop here. I'm sorry, guys. Hopefully this will help. Okay, let's see something. So we got, what was that? Okay, so yeah, EW.com is saying that China McClain planning Black Lighting exit before cancellation. The actress also implies she was fed up with Hollywood, saying all this is an illusion, this industry for what it is, and everything that people look to and praise, it's not important. So she finally, of course, I want to say that their parents really, I guess, tried to force them into the industry. I'm not going to say force, but I think it was one of their goals, because, these three young girls, they were basically young. And like I said, when I first met them, or seeing who they were, They were on Daddy's Little Girls, and after that, I think their career just skyrocketed after that. But anyway, the article on EW continues that the actress who played Jennifer Pierce Lightning on the superhero show shared the news in an emotional video posted to her Instagram on Saturday. She also said that she didn't know about the cancellation beforehand and found out with everybody else. Okay, end quote. What I didn't know, and I have known along with the rest of the cast since before we even started shooting this season, is that I am leaving the show and was leaving the that I am leaving the show and was leaving the show. McClain added, "This was going to be my last season, regardless of if it went on or not, for different reasons that, to be honest, I don't want to go into. I just want y'all to trust me on it." Okay. She also said that she only signed on for a limited number of season episodes. So audience will see less of Lightning when the series returned February 8th. During a nearly 13-minute video, McClain also implied she was at her breaking point with Hollywood. You see, and I think what she's basically saying here is that there is also a boiling point in Hollywood where they sometimes can overwork a young actor. Although there's a lot of, there's a lot of, laws that's supposed to labor laws is supposed to stop Hollywood producers from, you know, basically utilizing children for a certain number of times. But if their parents is agreeing to it, then they can go on and on and on. But the breaking point was, in my opinion, is that she felt that now that Hollywood has gotten too stressful. Okay, it has gotten too bit just how can I put it? It became overwhelmed. Basically, it's an industry that everybody thought that you get this glamour. You think everything is going to be good. You think it's going to be really it's something that you can live with. And every time that you find out when you're in Hollywood, and then when the cameras goes off, it's all about everybody faking out there. California's a bunch of fake people, and that's nothing to them. It's just the industry is fake. Okay, it's a lot of fake people, a lot of fake producers in Hollywood. If you look at Hollywood, you will see that people are trying to live a lifestyle image, or trying to live a glamour life that they basically really make it old with. It may people also may say, well, I want to live a normal life. I don't want to live this life in Hollywood no more. It's just too much. Sometimes you basically will be on the set and you feel like, man, this is good, and I like it. I'm a star, what have you. But then if there's no, like, let's say if your contract is ending and you're not getting no more work, you got all these problems and issues and stuff like that. But for the child actors, if you go back into the 80s and 90s with Corey Haim and Corey Feldman, their problems as child actors were basically that they were molested in the Hollywood industry. There was all kinds of pedophilia going on. And one of the things you have to understand is that pedophilia was a big deal back in the 80s and 90s, but the producers and the Hollywood entertainment people covered it up. That's when Corey Feldman did his interview on The View, I think Barbara Walters. Remember, Barbara Walters and Anthony Fauci, they're both sitting on top of what is the elitist type class, and they're in that bunch. So you really have to be careful because they know how to get rid of you. They know how to break you down. They know how to break you into pieces here. And although that children in the industry basically is supposed to get a lot of breaks because of their child labor laws. They sudden also have that moment where it's just too stressful for them because it's a lot of work, it's a lot of tasks, especially when you're doing television. Films is not really that bad, but when you're doing TV shows, basically you're pressured. You're really pressured. But the article goes on to say that in a nearly 13-minute video, McClain also implied she was at her breaking point with Hollywood. There have been a lot to happen. There's been a lot to happen over this quarantine, and I'm not talking about the PC side of it. She said, "These people that are dying in the way of the world now is real, and all of this is an illusion. This industry for what it is, and everything that people look to praise, it's not important." McClain continues saying that she was doing God's work now, and I'm not doing anything else. She also clarified that her decision to leave was not due to tensions with the network or the show. Okay. I'm not leaving because I had a terrible time working at the CW, she said, fighting back tears like the CW, like CW network president Mark Predoxwitz, like Warner Brothers president Peter Roth, uh, EP, Greg Berlanti. I love showrunner Celine Akil. Sound familiar? Celine Akil sound familiar. I always will. He gets it, and people that actually know me, they know why I make the decisions that I made. Near the end of the video, McClain congratulated Akil and co-star Jordan Calloway, whose spinoff Painkiller is currently in development. Congratulations to Salil and Jordan, who I just read that. Premiered in 2018, Black Lightning centered on Cress Williams, Jefferson Pierce, a teacher and retired superhero. In the pilot, he suited back up to freelance electricity power hero Black Lightning after his daughter Anissa Nafessa Williams, which was played by Nafessa Williams, and Jennifer McClain, were kidnapped by a local gang. Eventually, his daughter started developing power and joined the family business as a thunder and lightning, respectively. And basically, the show is kind of weird, it's foolish and stupid. But child actors often have a sense of issues of having to basically work, like I said, hours on the set. And for them, it's real tedious work. They have to basically they can't handle more of the stress and more of having to just sit still and read screenplay or practice more over than what adults can do. And so that's probably one of the breaking points here. She goes into talking about the quarantine, talking about people they have to do certain things now because of the regulations by the government. There's also there have to be some distancing there, and people that she said was dying is she's listening to the news media and stuff like that, saying that people dying from this and dying from that, from COVID and all that. That got her blood pressure all up as well. But you will find that children in Hollywood often, like I said earlier, um, basically has dealt with this. Um, there has been other child actors, what I'm saying, that also dealt with this as well, having any kind of issues and problem with Hollywood. Child actors, when you don't see them a lot no more, it really is that either Hollywood have just gotten rid of them, because Hollywood shows no love to their child actors at all. And so you can't name a lot of children who basically started out at the industry young and is still in the industry right now. They won't have that, they don't have that charisma as they did, if you will, when they were young, and kids will pop on a TV show and see them. Okay. Um, there's a lot of people like Arnold. I think that's his name. You know, young Webster. People like them. You didn't really get to see them as an adult act, and if you did, it was not impressive to you because now you're a grown up. So their careers was basically torn after they got older because the people who liked them like we did and grew up with them in the 80s and 90s, we basically, okay, we had no use for them no more. We're big now. We're adults. Okay, but it does give us a reminiscent about what we used to watch back in the day. Okay, like I said, Webster and Arnold and all these other people, Alf and all them. But Alf was a muffin. I mean, a mummy or whatever. But if you look at the TV shows in the 80s, we had our child actors: Corey Feldman, Corey Helm, Arnold, Webster. We had some child actors. Y'all in YouTube may know some more, but we had we remember our child actors. But as soon as those kids got old enough, like Macaulay Culkin and all these kids, they basically didn't have a career after that time because they were memorable when they were young. So that's when they were basically at their prime. They were basically, everybody would cut on the TV and they would watch Webster. They know he stayed with that white family. So we grew up on those TV shows. You understand? You did. And so growing up on those TV shows, there was a hits back in the 80s and 90s. So the industry, though, when the kid actor is no longer a child, and they try to then pursue um, the arts and acting at an older age, nobody wants to see them as an adult because we remember them as a child. So what Hollywood would do, it will get rid of them and don't give them a call back. And so they start to basically, as an adult, start disappearing. You know what I'm saying? Become homeless, become into drugs and all kinds of stuff that destroys their career. Um, and you don't basically see them anymore. Like I said, Corey Feldman. We'll get to him in just a second. How him and Corey Haim kept the secret that they were basically being molested in the industry. See, there's a lot of pedophilia going on in the Hollywood industry, and I'm not, like I said, I'm not saying that this is why China's leaving, but there is something that she basically is stressed out on. Okay, that may basically at some point she may have to seek a therapist for, because kid actors basically can't take a lot of emotional things. They come with a lot of emotional trauma if you're just working the child constantly, 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 so you can get these episodes. Because an adult, like for instance, like for Whitney Houston, and I know this is different. Remember, her and Michael Jackson had to take a lot of pills because they were always on the road. They couldn't sleep. They had basically to practice. They only got, like I said, less sleep. So the people in Hollywood pressures you to, um, to get it done quicker. Okay, and with that also comes a lot of, like I said, closed behind closed doors pedophilia. We'll talk more about that in another video. But Corey Haim and Corey Feldman um, also talked about that as well. Now, since Corey Haim died, Corey Feldman is the only one here to talk about how he and Corey Haim was treated. Now, I remember Corey Haim in The License to Drive as a young teenager. That used to be my favorite, one of my favorite movies at that time, License to Drive with Corey Haim. Um, so we knew about those child actors. We knew that that no, we asked the question. We were like, well, okay, what happened to these actors here that we used to talk about? We used to see in the 1980s and 90s. Where are they? You know what I'm saying? But it was cheatsheet.com, its entertainment section, that will go into depth. Moreover, we'll get back to China Ann McClain in a minute. If she's having a moment into which she's saying, I'm giving up on the industry because I want to focus on God, it could be any number of things. Okay, is she getting a lot of work? Is the phones stop calling? Well, I mean, why are you leaving the industry? Like I said, it's most likely stress. But for people like Corey Feldman and Corey Haim, it wasn't that. It was more deeper. It was pedophilia. And like I said, I'm going to do a whole video on Hollywood and pedophilia. But Showbiz Cheat Sheet did an article for Corey Helm, and it was titled, Here is Everyone Corey Feldman Had Accused of Sexual Abuse in Hollywood. So, yeah, it's a lot of child molestation that goes on in this industry. Like I said, the casting belt. Now, I start off talking about Harvey Weinstein or whatever, but I don't want to read that part because that has to do with sexual relationship. I want to go into what Corey um, Feldman, said about the pedophilia and stuff. It says here in the article, fair use copyright, as you know, that this is what I'm using just to critique. The Stand By Me star has spoken about the subject in the past, and in 2011, interviewed on ABC, he claimed the number one problem in Hollywood was and is and always will be pedophilia. Okay. Feldman also alleged in 2013 book Chore- Choreography that he and his frequent co-star and pal, the late Corey Haim, were victims of sexual abuse and passed around to child predators. And he mentioned these child predators, okay, which of course are not producers right now in the industry. One of them is, as he explains. At the time, he said that he wasn't able to name names, but that changed now that he has come forward to say exactly who those alleged abusers were. Here's who he named and what he's doing to try to expose other abuses. And in his video, he said, as far as True Campaign, he wants to release the film about pedophilia in Hollywood. And that's when you had Barbara Walters, when he went on The View trying to do it, you had Barbara Walters saying, oh, you're tearing down a whole entire industry. But as I told y'all, Barbara Walters is now up there with all of your other big time white elitists in the news industry and your pharmaceutical people. Like I said, she's in the same picture as Dr. Anthony Fauci. Okay, so go figures on that. Barbara Walters is. Okay, 516-418-5867 if you want to call in. We'll get to Tesla here in a minute. Right now, we're talking about China Ann McClain, and we're talking about how Hollywood have destroyed child actors. And now China McClain is coming and said that she's planning her exit on the Black Lightning CW series. And this was last year, November the 23rd. Of course, we're just now reporting on it. But we're also talking about what Hollywood has done to child actors and how they destroy child actors. We're going to talk a little bit about Corey Feldman. Um, Corey Haim died, I think it was in the 1980s. And one of the things that Corey Feldman said is that they were passed around like meat as young kids in the Hollywood industry. Okay. So the article goes on to read that the Stand By Me star has spoken about this subject in the past. And in 2011 interview on ABC, he claimed the number one problem in Hollywood was and is, oh, I already read that. Oh, at that time, he said that he wasn't able to name names. So he released this video, okay? And in October 2017, Feldman released a video to announce his true campaign. The Lost Boys star is trying to raise $10 million to fund his film project to shed light on the Hollywood's alleged pedophile ring. I told everybody a few days ago that I had planned to hopefully bring to light what is happening in the world of entertainment as far as perverts and pedophiles, pedophilia, and all of the topics we've been discussing. Right off the bat, I can name 6 names, one of them who's still very powerful today, and a story that linked all the way up to a studio. It connected pedophilia to one of the major studios. So far, Feldman has raised more than $235,000 and has over 5,000 backers. So on when he was on Dr. Oz show, Feldman publicly named 2 of the men he said sexually abused him as a child. In early November of 2017, he appeared on the program and accused 80s actor John Grisham of molesting him on multiple occasions. Feldman went on to explain that Grisham is who he was referring to in his memoir, but for legal reasons could not use his name, instead use like a pseudonym like Ron Grisham. The revelation prompted an on-air call the LAPD Elite Special Assault Section. The actor has since given statements to the department. Feldman sat down with Dr. Oz again on November the 13th and claimed that Alfie Huffman was another man who sexually abused him when he was 14 years old. Huffman ran Alfie's Soda Pop Club in the 1980s, which hosted parties for child stars of that time. Dr. Oz spoke to others who attended those parties, and they backed up Feldman's claims. Page 6 noted that the actor also previously named another one of his abusers as former child talent manager and convicted sex offender Marty Wise. Okay, we already knew about Marty Wise. So these child talent managers, these talent agencies, they're the ones who right now, as we said in the last other commentary that I think we did almost 6 months ago, we talked about this before. And the child talent managers be the main one that's be in these kids' fates, along with the casting directors. Okay. And so the casting directors and the talent agencies have given a lot of money to Black Lives Matter, this so-called Black organization, which is basically funded with white money, and white people and Jewish people and other people have infiltrated it. But the talent agencies had given them money so that they can keep hitting also and paid off other people so they can hit the pedophilia ring. One of the most important person to point out, as I told y'all last time, was Kevin Spacey. Kevin Spacey is a homosexual male, but Kevin Spacey liked young boys. And he had one of his abusers that was about to testify against him, but remember, he was found dead, or one of them refused to testify. So Kevin Spacey said, like I said later on, if you all convict me, I'm going to name you hundreds and thousands of people. I'm just using this, not verbatim, but he said that, look, if y'all take me down, Kevin Spacey said, if y'all take me down, he's talking about the powers that be, because a lot of them in government and a lot of people in Hollywood, a lot of them engage in all kinds of sleeping with children. They're trying to pass this law to sleep with kids. That's the reason then why they kept going after R. Kelly. That's the reason why they kept on just bouncing it into our mind about black men, R. Kelly. They try to position as if black men was doing this, while white men were basically actually being the one who have heavily did this. And so, like I said, you look at Harvey Weinstein, all these other men, white men, who powerful, being accused of sexual relationship with people or with women. You see that the pedophilia is also there. Okay, and Holly Weird, as some of you all call it in the Black grassroots movement, it is really a weird situation because Corey Helm basically was a child actor who also went to the grave with the abuse that he suffered at the hands of these casting directors. It was the most heinous and diabolical situation at that time in the 1980s. That these producers and these managers were sexually molesting kids. You understand? So the article goes on to read that strange thing to actor Sean Astin has spoken out in support for Feldman after the sexual abuse claim and said he wishes he knew what was going on back then. Astin posted on an essay on Longer saying that in 1985 he knew something was going with his Goonies co-star, but he didn't know exactly what and regrets that. I'm deeply regretted not knowing more, Astin wrote in a statement. I'm disappointed in myself that I didn't know enough or do know enough to help Corey or any kid who was in my orbit that was abused in any way. Okay. So there was also a mention of Charlie Sheen here. It says that just a few days after Feldman named two of his alleged abusers, another sexual abuse claim again at major Hollywood players surfaced. The allegations involve Helm and Charlie Sheen. The shocking claim was made to the National Enquirer about Helm's friend, Dominique Brazia, who said that the Helm told him he had sex with Sheen when he was 13 and that later was 20 while he was filming the movie Lucas together. In his book, Feldman wrote that Helm experienced a sexual incident with an adult male while working on that film. Feldman also said in the past that he is not a huge fan of Sheen because of the way that he affected other people that I know. When asked for comments on the National Enquirer story, Feldman rep said that Corey can only speak about his own experiences and anything he was told by others is merely hearsay, end quote. So this is only just a mere surface of the pedophilia. It goes deeper than that. Hollywood pedophilia goes deeper than that. We're not only talking about kids who have emotional breakdowns because of just working so much in the industry and having so much problems. and having people just touching them in the wrong places. We're talking about a deep history of this going on since the 1980s. So this is nothing really new. Okay. So this basically was to try to basically look at kids actors, child actors in a different light. A lot of parents, when these stories come out, people be like, well, where's the parents at on this? And that's a very important question. Okay. Parents often trust the managers of these talent agencies, and basically the kid think that they did something wrong and will never tell their parents. That happens a lot. Okay. So when people ask that question, uh, the parents don't most likely know, and the child may not tell them. Okay. So we see the trauma that kid actors go through. And basically, it is unfortunate, but they do go up through this a lot when they try to get into the Hollywood industry. Okay. Moving right along here to let's see what's going on here. Um, yeah, so that was something here. Now, I want to talk about Tesla. I want to talk about this car company here. We need to start as Black folks really understanding how white people are making money and how they're basically changing the rules when Black people enter anything. White folks change the rules. Okay. And that's the reason why I wanted to talk about the Hollywood thing first and get on talking about, like Antonio Moore talks about when he talked about the closing of the wealth gap. But let's talk specifically today about how white people cheat in the stock market, how they basically keep their monies and keep their investments there so that they can borrow money from the stock market, banks, hedge fund. They set up hedge funds. A lot of them rob you with these scams. Of course, with these pyramid business, they create IPOs and stuff like that. They get people to invest in it, invest in their hedge funds, and then you find out later that the hedge fund company was a hoax. That the whole investment scams. Okay, that's the reason why the television show American Greed was started. It was formed based up on the cheating that a lot of white people do. And I want to talk a little bit about racist Tesla, the car company. Excuse me. And I want to talk to you about investment here and why the wealth gap. Now, we've been telling you on the Black media by the year 2045 that Black people will have no wealth. Okay. And the reason is because everything that Black folks are setting on right now is just mostly money. It's not, it's mostly liquid assets that you can spend. Now, don't get me wrong. There are some Black people who do have who do own stocks, who is participating in real estate and investments or whatever, who do have ownership of mutual funds or ETAs and all this. But the problem is, it's not enough of us. Okay. But I wanted to go into talking about Tesla because this is, if white people are not cheating in on the investment side, they also can cheat on playing the rules. Now, remember, you're not supposed to trade any stock after 4 o'clock. So if you got your phone or whatever, and the time said, well, it's after hours, you're not supposed to do that trade. That's one of the SEC's golden rule. Okay, that you don't trade after 4. And I'm not saying that Tesla has done this, but I'm just giving you pointers as to how white people cheating here. Okay, specifically in the stock market. Now, the stock market, now Tesla, the car company, had just entered into now the S&P 500, which is called the Standard and Poor. Now, it has already been trading on the regular stock market. Okay, and one of the things that you do when you trade on the regular stock market is basically you're having the uh, will to basically to get people to buy your stock. Okay, and whatever the number of the amount that you're going to sell your stock for, beautiful, because that company is making you're making some money because depending on the price of a stock. Okay, but Tesla was not only on the regular stock market. Tesla is going to just barge its way into down the S&P 500. So there's only 500 companies, I think, on the S&P, right? And one of the companies that is supposed to basically, I think that the S&P officials are just going to just throw somebody out, I guess a low performing company, and Tesla is going to be able to just come right in to be on first and second place. Now, a lot of people will say, well, Tesla is making all the money. Okay, so Tesla can not only be on any of the stock indexes, it should be number one on the Standard and Poor 500. Okay, so the value of the company, what I'm saying, has increased, no doubt. I get it, but at the same time, Tesla could not have done that without its factory workers. Okay, and that brings me to my next point. Their factory workers, specifically the black ones, have accused Tesla of race discrimination. You understand? And Tesla still has not dealt with its race discrimination. But it doesn't matter if a company discriminates against blacks. See, what you got to understand is you still can do whatever you want to black folks, and you get to also increase on all kinds of capitalize on all types of investment properties. Now, why should the feds allow Tesla to grow, develop, and advance? And then when we sing like we sing Ford, GMC, or GM, sorry, GM, Ford, GM, and I'm missing one. What's the other one? You got Ford, GM, Chrysler. Ford, GM, Chrysler. All of them on the stock market. Here come Tesla saying, I got to not only be on the regular stock markets, I want to be on the Standard and Poor. We're going to sell cars as we do. The first car we're going to roll out costs $325 or $56 or $400. These are cars that rich people are buying here. These are cars that your rappers are talking about. These are your cars that your your celebrities are buying. They're buying their cars. A lot. Some of them Rich people, of course, are buying some of their cars from Tesla. So Tesla is basically is saying now that we have uh, made all this money, our investment flow is increasing, we got businesses up, we're going to brush our way into the Standard and Poor, and we want to be in first place on the index of the Standard and Poor for a 500 of the New York Stock Exchange. You see, so here's the thing, I'm trying to figure out. Wait a minute, how did they become a huge investment? You see, the news here is that it's okay though that if you discriminate against black folks, you can still at any cost do everything that you want to do freely and not address the racial discrimination issues here. But before we get into that, let's go ahead and talk about Tesla, shall we? When Tesla hit the S&P 500, it has sparked the wildest passive trade ever. Elon Musk's company would be the largest ever added to the index, and its inclusion would spark an all-hands trading moment. Okay, now here we go. The article reads that beating the S&P 500 is a notoriously difficult for fund managers, but it's simply replicating it as closely as possible isn't always a picnic either. The Tesla Inc. has found a way to make it a little harder. The market value of the electric car company currently stands at about 277 billion. That would make it one of the biggest companies in the S&P 500, except that isn't a part of the index yet. The keepers of that list, S&P Dow Jones in the indices, have ruled that the new companies must have been profitable in their most recent quarter and over the past year before being added. With this later earning, Tesla just crossed that line. Okay, now even if Tesla did cross the line, right, become now this big company, that's one of the rules. It's what the article says. It wouldn't have basically crossed the line if the feds were doing their job and investigating how Tesla was basically treating its African American workers. In fact, factory workers, basically, the union, all these people were silent on the ideal that blacks at the factory were getting called niggers and all these types of things, and that Tesla has not been dealing with its issues about fairness and rights and discrimination. But yet, you can still see that the company is still striving. Okay. And so the thing about this is that this company is supposed to be setting an example, but it's not. Okay. And it's also, as you know, when people start to buy other cars, Tesla stock is going to crunch anyway. So here's what let's go ahead and read the article. Continue reading the article. The possible addition of the car maker is a big event for managers of index mutual funds and exchange traded funds. They are already hashing out strategy for one of the biggest potential trading challenges that they have faced in years. Tesla will be the largest company in dollar terms ever added to the index, which managers of 11 trillion of investment either tracking religiously or use as a benchmark. Okay, you understand what I'm saying there? So the $11 trillion there, added on to already, as we know, of white people's $100 trillion in cash liquid assets, you will see then that this $11 trillion is basically is keeping them afloat. You see, black folks, we don't deal with that type of money. We don't have Fortune 500 companies, is what I'm trying to tell you here. The article goes on and say that at the current prices of Tesla and other stocks, managers of the passive fund will have to sell about 35 billion to 40 billion of shares and the rest of the index companies to make a whole big enough to fit purchases of Tesla shares, according to Jerry O'Reilly, a principal and portfolio manager at the investing giant Vanguard Group Inc. Assuming it's going to be added, it'll be an all hands on deck type of trading, he said. There's no template to follow for the Vanguard's 24 U.S. traders, plus a team of analysts who worked on keeping transaction costs down when it comes to efficiently handling the stock as a big and volatile as Tesla's. Nor is it easy to predict the ripple effects in the other overhaul markets. Okay, so Tesla is going to create this whole ripple effect within the stock market, man. And just looking and just think about how many people are sitting on the investment pool of these Fortune 500 companies, mostly all white men. Okay, and the thing about this is that the games are being played where companies like Tesla, which should not be able to enter in all on these indexes, specifically the Standard & Poor, because it's already trading somewhere else. And the management of $11 trillion, that basically, I mean, that's a lot of cash to deal with. You see? And just thinking about just company, one company dealing with $11 trillion, which you don't include the investment managers or what have you on Wall Street. Okay, because of course the people on Wall Street is going to win at the end of the day. Okay, and so the people on Wall Street is basically looking at all of these indexes, and they're able to get all the information as to what stock is going to be beneficial to them. And we're going to get to the politicians here in a minute, and how a lot of white politicians, how they cheat and getting information that they're not supposed to be using for their own benefit when they talk about investment in the stock market. So they're able to get a cheat sheet, just like the answers on the key to a test in the stock market. The politicians are able to get a cheat sheet. And then, so they know all of the information about companies like Tesla, which basically now go into the S&P 500, and you're going to have all of these investors on Wall Street who is basically going to already know to put money into that stock, where they're going to be making millions and millions off on dividends. And see, this is one of their biggest strategies. So before Obama passed the Frank Dodd law, they were trading even after 4 o'clock, which is a SEC violation, I said earlier. So this is one as many ways how white folks cheat in the stock market. They trading after 4 o'clock. Basically, they manipulate their stock prices in their portfolio. They basically will say, well, this is my portfolio. This is what I have in that stock. It is basically, it will mature. Go ahead and sell it. So they lie, they manipulate. It's kind of, see, it wasn't different. See, we have to go back into those of you who are on Instagram, go ahead and turn it into YouTube, because we're leaving Instagram here in 19 seconds. But what I was saying is though that those people that has the investment is able to keep their money tied up into investments so they can constantly make money. So they don't have to worry about anything. While me and you have to have a 9 to 5. See, this is what we're talking about here. We're talking about, you see, before we was, as black folks, we were the stock market, right? When white people's ancestors was, enslaving us. The the slave, if you put that person on, if you put a slave on a land, on a property, it had value. So when white men at that time, or white people at that time, went to slave auctions, basically any type of property that has a slave on there, it increased the value here. Okay, we don't have that, of course, no more. But now in the current stock market, all the people who are on Wall Street, who are the investors, of course, is going to make all the money off of this big with Tesla. And they have basically also with the pharmaceutical companies that are basically is going to be manufacturing the COVID-19 vaccines here. Okay, we already talked about is it Pfizer or Pfizer? Is it Pfizer? We already talked about that company. Its stock is basically, it's going to be through the roof as more investors is going to then pile their money into the stock of this particular company just because of the COVID-19, that it manufactured the COVID-19 vaccines. But Bloomberg Business Week go ahead and continue to report that there's that the shift in the index composition could be announced anytime. The additions theoretically could happen along with the departures of E-Trade's Financial Corp or Tiffany and Company, which are being acquired, or as part of the routine quarterly quarterly rebalancing in September. Now, this is what's going. They're talking about a ripple effect is going to take place. You got companies on like Financial Corp, E-Trade's Financial Corp, and Tiffany Company, which basically has been independent for years and years upon years. It's now basically has been acquired by a major company, and so now the whole thing when Tesla get inside the investment pool, man, these white boys are going to be slinging money and stock everywhere. We're going to look and see that they have beach homes and all kinds of investments here, while we as black folks out here talking about a job. They get to take vacations everywhere because their portfolio, not only, as in my opinion, constantly is manipulated by them, but at the same time, their money is still tied up in investments, regardless if they're still in cheating or what have you. You see. But the index fund may get a few as a couple days notice of the switch so that they can decide if they should start buying before the addition. The day of the stock is to be added or outwards. See, this company that Tesla, one of the whatever company, see, the stock market is in a bound right now because they don't know what company is having to move out. You see, you can only have 500 companies on the S&P, the Standard and Poor 500. So, what company is typically going to be the lowest unperforming company? Okay, so what they're saying is that this company is not doing a damn thing, and they're going to bring all these types and the company that is basically is not performing, that company knows that they're on their way out. Okay, so they're basically saying it's not fair. I mean, it's not fair, but you have Tesla who basically is making billions of dollars. Their investment is up 14 trillion, but they haven't settled. In my opinion, I'm upset because they've been accused for racist discrimination. They've been accused for other things, and with all of those lawsuits and other things, I don't see how well they could be making their money in liquid access. They don't have that much cash, but they're making all of their cash and their money specifically on investment, which is fine. The article goes on to say that the index fund may get a few as a couple of days notice of the switch, so they need to decide if they should start buying before the addition. The day the stock is to be added or outward. Picking which approach isn't as simple as it sounds. While Tesla's stock may be bid up by traders trying to take advantage of the demand from indexers, other investors may treat it as what O'Reilly calls a super liquidity event. That is, longtime Tesla shareholders who are looking to trim positions may try to get out when they know the index funds have to buy. The two kinds of investors could cancel each other's out. There are all sorts of cross currents. O'Reilly says. He says is confident Vanguard will be able to handle the switch without a major tracking error. That is, dislocation between the performance of the index and the funds that follows it. Like many things about Tesla Chief Executive Officer Elon Musk, his company passed into the S&P 500 is unconventional, meaning that really this is unheard of, which explained how Tesla became the gorilla in the room for the index fund crowd. Investors simply believe in the Tesla story enough to bid the share price into the stratosphere despite a record dotted with more quarterly losses than profits. The S&P 500 is weighted by the market capitalization, with the most highly valued companies taking up the large share of the index if that they were the only standard. Tesla would have qualified a while ago. The threshold to be added is the market value of the little more than $8 billion. You see? So Tesla is making its way into this index. Okay? Now, I want to talk a little bit about when they talked about the Dodd-Frank reform. Okay? And this was signed by Obama in 2010 to regulate certain types of things in the financial market, okay, in the stock market specifically. Well, that didn't basically take long for all of these investors and business owners start to say that the Dodd-Frank Law and Reform Act was just too aggressive. And so they started to appeal back, and Obama himself basically, I think in 2008, rolled back his own law. You know, I don't know, but this is what Harvard Law School is saying. But let's go ahead and read the article. On May the 24th, 2018, President Trump signed into law. I'm sorry, President Trump, not Obama. But President Trump signed into the law the Economic Growth, Regulatory Relief, and Consumer Protection Act, marking the first set of the much anticipated rollbacks of the Dodd-Frank Act of 2010. So Obama signed the Dodd-Frank law in 2010, which was harsher penalties, and then Trump came in and said, no, some businesses are saying that this Frank law, the Dodd-Frank law, is too aggressive. So we're going to make some changes to it. Okay. And so what they did was they took out a lot of restriction here. And let's just talk about some of those restrictions. Limited removal of a Volcker rule, naming restrictions, exemptions of small banks from Volcker rule, reduced regulations, burdens for all but the largest bank holding companies. The act eliminate the needs for bank holding companies with less than $250 billion in assets to comply with most aspects of enhanced prudential standards, including resolutions, planning, stress testing, and single counterpart credit limits. Favor custodial bank treatment of riskless assets of calculating supplementary leverage ratios. Okay. Party of the closed-end funds regarding offering proxy rules. The Act instructs the SEC to, within 2 years, finalize rules to allow closed-end investment companies that is registered under the Investment Company Act of 1940 and is listed on a national security exchange or investment company that makes periodic repurchase offers pursuant to Investment Company Rule 23C3, commonly known as interval funds, to follow the same securities officers offering and proxy rules that are available to operating companies. And then finally, number 6, beneficial treatment of certain securities for all banking organizations. So now the law has been repealed. A lot of the regulations of the Dodd-Frank law that Obama put in 2010, okay, Trump came back in 2018 and said we're going to roll those things back. We're not going to basically keep them playing on an equal playing field. You see, so Black people, we have not at all attempted to, we have not even surpassed white people. I mean, we don't even know the game that they are playing in the stock market, where they basically often cheat a lot in order to maintain their investments. Now, we're not going to get on the Ponzi schemes because that's kind of a little different here. The Ponzi schemes is about lying and getting people to invest in your company when you're trying to get, money and get greedy. You take the money that the investors give you and you go and buy a boat or a jet and all that. We're not talking about those white boys, okay? We're talking about these white men, specifically the politicians, who are not playing fair in the stock market. How can Tesla, who had financial losses, is now a part of the index, the Standard & Poor's 500? Tesla, as one Black guy pointed out in the factories, calling him all kinds of niggers and all of this. And you mean to tell me that the federal government have not sued Tesla for these claims? Now, there was a class action lawsuit. I don't know if the EEOC had done it. But Tesla should know good damn well that they have lost profits. How can they cheat themselves into going on another index, which they're already on the Dow Jones? Their stock is trading at a high value here already. And so it is unfortunately that we don't understand how the white boys be playing ball on a whole different level. And see, this is what I'm talking about. And so Tesla, at the same time, not only was faced with racial discrimination and class action lawsuits, but Tesla decided to sue the Trump administrations on the tariffs on the trade with China. Okay, this is why they wanted to get Trump out of office, because Tesla could not have been a huge business to do things globally if China was still upset with Tesla itself, you see. So now that you got Trump out the way and Biden, and the tariffs may be lifted from the Chinese, in which Trump was doing a good job as he was trying to basically divert the economic power that China continued to rise, while the Democrats is talking about, well, let's focus still on globalization. It's foolish. But we have Tesla in a lying situation that says that it's been fair to its employees. But we have seen that Tesla has been sued for race discrimination. Tesla has been sued for other things. Tesla has been sued for illegal workers who basically sued them, whistleblowers. Tesla basically had all kinds of irregularities. It had securities litigation related to the CEO tweet regarding potentially going private, litigation relating to 2018 CEO Performance Award, Tesla lawsuit alleged sabotage, Tesla SEC investigation in 2006 regarding their autopilot crash. Uh, Tesla had all kinds of labor practices, Tesla's working conditions and injury policies. How the and also, as I told you, their second class lawsuit and their two of their class lawsuits. The S&C investigation regarding gap reports, security litigation, and to other types of irregularities, software copyright infringement. Just how did this company, who has broken all of these rules, gets to basically be a company that is now going to be on the Standard and Poor and able to invest into a lot of investment. I don't understand this. Maybe you'll help me out. Area code 404. You're live with Lawyer Henderson. Go ahead.
Hey, what's up, man?
Hey, how you doing, man?
I'm all right. It appears you are understanding capitalism. Good job. You're looking into the things that are not supposed to be said and the things that are not supposed to be looked at.
Absolutely.
So,
things that can get me killed.
Not only is Tesla not a singular event,
Mhm.
there are hundreds of companies who act in the same manner and are propped up in the same way by venture capitalists and companies.
Right.
But the thing with Elon Musk, and this goes deep, man, because a lot of people have bought into some of this Iron Man public relations that they've done over the past few years.
Absolutely.
Never forget, he was born in South Africa. His father owned an emerald mine in Zambia. That's how they got their money. This is not the boy genius who figured out stuff late night.
Absolutely. Like a lot of white boys.
No.
Yeah, a lot of white boys are not like that. They just basically get this money and they inherited money. A lot of white boys are not like that. But go ahead.
Yeah. And so then when we get to Tesla, you gotta understand, Tesla has over $5 billion of U.S. government subsidies that fronted this company.
Yeah.
That made it what it is. And you can look this up. There's a story in the LA Times that kind of details the financial transactions and how it got to where it is now.
Right.
That's not only the $5 billion in government subsidies. Remember this other part.
Absolutely.
The tax rebate for buying an electric car. That's baked into the cake of your sale. The fact that the person will get a tax rebate. That means what? That's basically more government subsidy that you add on to the other part. So yeah, Elon Musk and all these people have always been raggedy. The game has always been rigged, and these people who think, well, the answer is you got to fight capitalism better. It's like, no, capitalism is a rigged game where those who've been there before and have accumulated wealth will use that wealth to maintain it and rig the rules to their benefit.
Absolutely.
So those politicians you talked about, from Dodd-Frank and everything else. Remember, Dodd-Frank was a weak bill.
Right.
There wasn't really a lot of people. We all knew things would go on as usual. That's why Wall Street was born. Wall Street didn't fight and throw a tantrum about Dodd-Frank. Why? Because they knew it wouldn't fundamentally change things. Right. A broker wants to make a trade. Now he has to talk to the floor manager before he makes that trade. He can't just do it on his own. So you call that regulation. And the American thing, which is really interesting when you go from Republican to Democrat. Typically what you have is a Democratic administration comes in and says they're going to put some regulations in. Business class already knows before the person is inaugurated, okay, this person is going to do that. Therefore, we'll shift our trades and shift our portfolios to what? Things that benefit during the days of regulation.
Absolutely.
And then when that person is out and the Republican comes in, what do? They shift their portfolios towards anti-regulation. So they make money either way, which is why those people donate to both sides. They don't care about parties.
Absolutely.
Now, one thing I got a huge issue with you when you say Trump did a good job with China. Oh, brother, you couldn't be more wrong.
Okay,
Trump
go ahead.
did a terrible job with China.
Go ahead.
And it starts with this. It starts with this premise. Globalization is not something you can turn the light switch on. It's already on.
Right.
Once it's on, that's the market that you deal with. You cannot become America first or Germany first or Japan first nation. No, you have to deal with the global market. And if you decide you're going to put up a stink or push somebody to do what you want to do, you know what actually happens? Somebody else gets your order. Somebody else fills that vacuum in the market, and you lose access to that area. It goes back to the days when Trump was talking about, he's like, yeah, we're losing money on these trade deals. These are terrible deals. And it's like, dude, are you like a movie character from the 80s? That's not how global trade works.
Right.
Global trade is not about what your government gets. It's about what markets you have access to.
Right.
So you do deals that are slanted towards another country because you want to have access to the market. The best way I've tried to explain this to people, the best way to explain it that I found is use video games. You say to somebody, when PlayStation sells you a console, they lose money on every console sold. Is PlayStation stupid? Why are they selling you a console for less than it costs to produce and ship and everything else?
Right.
Well, because they want access to your market. So when you take that PlayStation to your home and you buy a game for 60, 70, I don't know how much it costs. Now, I ain't played yet. When you buy a game for how much it costs, now they're making up their cost by every game that you buy over the life cycle of the machine.
Right.
But the most important thing was what? Getting the machine in your house, getting your market share. And that's how global trade works. So, yes, some deals are going to be slanted towards other nations, but once you sign those deals, you get your corporations to go into those countries. They're going to make the sales. They're going to make the orders. You're going to be more profitable as a country. You start this trade war nonsense, which nobody wins. Trade wars basically mean some third party comes in and makes profits while the other two fight. The problem with Trump and China is this. Obama, I'm not a big Obama fan. He got many things wrong. One thing he did have right. If you were going to have a fight with China, the thing you would do was what? Appeal to East Asia, South Asia, Japan, and all those other countries.
Right.
Which is why he wanted to do the TPP deal. Because he wanted to prop up those countries and take market share away from China. And remember, Trump immediately said he's not doing it, threw it away, which is why on election night in 2016, on the trading floor in Beijing, Chinese were yelling, no TPP, no TPP, when Trump won. Because they knew that was a huge victory for them. So now Asia is like a Chinese lake. They're able to dominate those other countries over there based on the size of their population, their wealth, their ability to mass produce everything. And because of that, they're much stronger and in much better position than they were in 2016. So Trump failed on many levels in dealing with China. The fight with the farmers and the soybeans and all that stuff. Like, we ended up having to pay money out of the treasury to keep the farmers afloat because he started this fight with a group who was basically buying the majority of our soybeans and other things. And, in the Midwest, these farmers kind of, that was their cash cow.
Absolutely.
Selling that to China. What does China do? China goes to Brazil and buys the soybeans from Brazil. And we lose out. So again, like, globalization is not something you can put back in you can't put the toothpaste back in the toothpaste. It's already out. Markets are there. You got to get out and fight for your share.
Right.
But the idea that anybody can kind of turtle up, just be a one nation against the rest of the world, like, no, you'll lose every time. Nobody has anything that is so unique that the rest of the world needs it and only has to deal with it.
Okay. Yeah, I want to quickly ask you, because we've got about a couple of minutes. Have you remember the ordeal about Mitt Romney and Baines Capital, or Senator what's his name, John Kerry and his wife, Miss Hines, basically had bought shares and stocks in pharmaceutical companies. But yeah, that was basically what I was saying. That white people play the game in the stock market, and a lot of time they're cheating and stuff like that. This is how they stay ahead of us, and they deal with other races and people.
But I'll go one worse.
Go ahead.
Not only are they cheating in it, they rig it from the beginning to cheat.
Oh,
so
yeah.
Okay, think about Uber. Uber is a huge company, right?
Right.
Uber stock shares pretty nice. A lot of people are investing in Uber because they think it's a good company. You can go to the SEC filing from Uber where they openly state in their mission that they do not think their company will make a profit in the next 20 years. Uber is not even a profitable company. It doesn't make any sense. The only way it will ever work is if Uber is able to take over public transportation contracts from local cities and then move in as the monopoly for public transit. That's their end game. But it's a long time until they get there, so they're just bleeding out venture capitalist money every year. Right. They lose a few billion every year. They have never made a profit. Now, the people who hold those shares and know that the end goal is to take over public transportation, get rid of the taxis, get rid of the bus systems or whatever in certain cities, take over those contracts and get that government money, they're going to continue to hold those shares until that happens. But for now, they completely understand it's an unprofitable company. It shouldn't be, the valuation for it should not be $100 billion or whatever crazy thing that is, because it's never made a profit.
Absolutely.
But these people willingly invest in it because they know the game is rigged in their favor.
Well, I appreciate it, brother, man. We're wrapping up right now, but I appreciate your call, man. Yeah, you're right, man. But Tesla, man, is I was like, wow, all this stuff, and they're on yeah, it's crazy. But yeah, I appreciate. Thank you for your call, though.
So dirty, man.
All right. Right. So it's a great thing that we basically have to learn as far as investment. The brother's right. But I wanted to also, before we wrap up, talk about Bain Capital. Remember back I think this article came out in 2012. There was a book about John Kerry and his wife. They did some funding, I guess, and they knew about investment or the stocks. They knew a lot of information that they're not supposed to know, and they invested in certain types of companies what they was not supposed to know, which is a violation, SEC violations. But they basically was able to just get that information, invest in the stocks like pharmaceutical company stocks, and made huge profits. It was a book about this. I forget the name of it, but man, it just shows you how white people just play the game with us. But the article goes on to write that says that Romney, it turns out, isn't the only prominent American politician connected with the controversial investment. Former Democratic president candidate John Kerry, who now chairs the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, reported more money than Romney invested in the same fund on his most recent Senate disclosure form. The fund, Kerry staffer says, are part of Hines Family Trust, of which it was wife Teresa Hines Kerry, widow of a former Pennsylvania Senator John Hines III, sold here to the Heinz Ketchup and Food Fortune. Is one of its beneficiaries. This isn't Senator Kerry's investment, says Kerry spokesman Jody said. He has never have been a beneficiary of any Heinz Family Trust. But it just goes on to say that even if you don't have the evidence against him, is that we see how white folks play the game in the stock market. And also with trade, as the brother talked about. We can go on and talk about all of this. The Lloyd Henderson Show is ended today. I want to thank all my guests for tuning in. You on YouTube, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Talk to you later.